Right now, in March 2026, the Strait of Hormuz is effectively a graveyard for global trade. While the U.S. Fifth Fleet and Israeli forces trade strikes with Tehran, over 300 tankers are sitting stranded, and oil has spiked past $100 a barrel. But here's the secret the mainstream news isn't telling you. China isn't panicking. While the U.S. Navy is locked in a kill box trying to reopen a 20th century choke point, Beijing is quietly moving its energy through a multi-billion-dollar backdoor that the West can't touch. Today, we're looking at the invisible map of the Hormuz Trap and why the U.S. is currently spending billions to protect a waterway that China has already made irrelevant. Let's look at the board. As of this week, March 18th, 2026, the Strait of Hormuz has effectively ceased to exist as a global trade route. Following the massive U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian missile sites, Tehran has done exactly what experts feared. They've turned the world's most important choke point into a kill box. The numbers are staggering. In the first half of March last year, over 1,200 ships moved through these waters. This month, just 77. That is a 94% collapse in traffic. While President Trump is on Truth Social calling for a global naval coalition to bomb the hell out of the shoreline, the reality on the water is much grimmer. Shipping giants like Lloyd's have pulled war risk coverage, and hundreds of tankers are currently sitting dead in the water, anchored in a desperate line stretching into the Indian Ocean. But here is what the mainstream media is missing. Iran didn't need a massive navy to shut the gate. They did it with fear. By using a handful of low-cost drones to strike tankers like the Skylight and the Stena Imperative, they triggered a global insurance panic. Even with the U.S. Fifth Fleet stationed in Bahrain, the Pentagon is privately admitting they have no safe plan to reopen the strait. Why? Because you can't protect every square inch of water from a swarm of $20,000 drones. The U.S. is currently caught in a multi-billion-dollar trap, deploying carrier strike groups to play a game of whack-a-mole against an enemy that is using gravity and geography to win. This brings us to the most uncomfortable truth of the 2026 crisis. While the U.S. and Europe are begging allies to send warships into the crossfire, there is one country that isn't panicking. In fact, while the West is being strangled, China is actually moving naval units toward the region, not to fight, but to secure the very backdoors they've been building for the last decade. As global oil prices spike toward $100 a barrel, threatening to bankrupt Western economies, Beijing is quietly proving that they no longer need the gate to be open. They've already built a way around the ghost. While the world's cameras are fixed on the burning tankers inside the strait, 300 miles to the east, the silence is what should be terrifying the West. This is the port of Jask. For decades, every drop of Iranian oil was a prisoner of the strait, forced to pass through the Karg Island terminal. But in early March 2026, as the first U.S. missiles hit, Tehran did something they've been practicing for 5 years. They flipped the switch on the Goreh-Jask Pipeline. This 1,000-kilometer vein of steel allows Iran to pump over 1 million barrels a day directly to the Gulf of Oman, completely bypassing the kill box. While the U.S. Fifth Fleet is busy guarding an empty entrance, the oil is already on the outside, waiting for the only customer brave enough to take it. That customer, of course, is China. As of this morning, satellite imagery confirms that while Western-linked shipping has dropped by 94%, dark fleet tankers, ships with no clear ownership and disabled transponders, are actively loading at Jask. Intelligence reports suggest that Beijing has negotiated a safe passage deal with Tehran. The message is clear. If you're flying a Western flag, you're a target. If you're carrying oil for China, the drones stay on the rack. This isn't just a trade deal. It's a regional protection racket, where China is the only player with a VIP pass to the world's gas station. While the U.S. spends billions to protect the region, they are effectively securing a perimeter that only their greatest rival is allowed to cross. But Jask is only half of the escape route. Further east lies Gwadar, the crown jewel of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. For years, critics called Gwadar a white elephant, a port with no purpose. But in 2026, the purpose is undeniable. Gwadar is the terminal for a massive land bridge that connects the Arabian Sea directly to Western China. By unloading oil here and moving it via rail and pipe, China avoids the 10,000-mile journey through the Malacca Strait, another U.S. choke point. China hasn't just bypassed a waterway, they have bypassed the entire U.S. maritime strategy. They've turned a naval blockade into a logistical footnote. While the White House talks about unclogging the strait, the math on the water tells a different story. As of March 2026, the United States has assembled its largest naval force in the Middle East since the 2003 Iraq invasion. We have 2, and soon 3, carrier strike groups, including the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford, patrolling these waters. The daily operating cost for just one of these groups is over $6 million. That's nearly $200 million a month per carrier, just to keep the lights on. And what are they fighting? Not a rival navy, but a swarm of $20,000 Iranian drones and shore-based suicide boats. We are using million-dollar interceptor missiles to shoot down plastic drones that cost less than a used car. It is the most lopsided financial war in human history. But the real failure isn't military, it's psychological. Despite the presence of thousands of U.S. Marines and the most advanced Aegis missile defenses on Earth, the U.S. Navy has been forced to tell the shipping industry that military escorts for every tanker are not possible right now. The result? A total insurance blockade. Shipping giants like Lloyd's of London have seen enough. They've withdrawn war risk coverage entirely. It doesn't matter how many carriers President Trump sends to the Gulf if no insurance company will touch the cargo. The U.S. is currently spending billions to secure a waterway that remains commercially dead. We are guarding a graveyard, while the world's energy trade is forced to find a new home. And this is where the irony turns into a strategic disaster. While American taxpayers foot the bill for this massive naval buildup, who is actually benefiting? As we've seen, China's dark fleet is still moving oil through the back doors at Jask and Gwadar. Every time a U.S. destroyer intercepts a drone meant for a neutral tanker, they are effectively stabilizing a region just enough for China to continue its VIP trade. We are providing the security, they are taking the oil. We are stuck in a 20th century mindset of holding the line, while Beijing has simply moved the line to a place where we don't have a single ship. While the world watches the explosions in the Gulf, the real war is being fought on a digital ledger in Beijing. For 50 years, the global oil trade had one unbreakable rule. You buy in U.S. dollars or you don't buy at all. This Petro-Dollar system is what allows the United States to print trillions of dollars to fund its military without crashing its own economy. But in March 2026, as the Strait of Hormuz sits paralyzed, that rule is being rewritten. Under the cover of this crisis, China has just launched its largest ever sanction-proof clearinghouse. They aren't just buying Iranian oil, they are buying it in yuan. By removing the dollar from the transaction, they've made the U.S. Treasury's most powerful weapon, financial sanctions, completely obsolete. But it goes deeper than just currency. This month, reports have surfaced that Beijing is offering Middle Eastern oil producers a gold link for their yuan. If a country like Iran or even Saudi Arabia is worried about the stability of the Chinese currency, they can immediately convert their profits into physical gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. This is a direct attack on the U.S. dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. While the U.S. Navy is busy intercepting physical drones in the water, they are completely powerless to stop the digital drones that are currently dismantling the American financial empire. Every barrel of oil that moves through China's back door without touching a U.S. bank is a nail in the coffin of the petrodollar. This is the trap in its final form. To keep the strait open, the U.S. must spend billions in borrowed money. But as the world moves toward the Petro-Yuan, the global demand for those borrowed U.S. dollars drops. We are approaching a mathematical breaking point where the cost of defending the world's energy lanes exceeds the value we get from controlling them. We are effectively borrowing money from the future to defend a past that is already gone. While we hold the line in the sand, China is building a fortress of gold and digital infrastructure that doesn't need a single aircraft carrier to defend it. What we are witnessing in the spring of 2026 isn't just another flare-up in the Middle East. It is the funeral of the 20th century geopolitical order. For 80 years, the world revolved around the American carrier strike group and the U.S. dollar. But as the smoke clears over the Strait of Hormuz, a new map has emerged. It's a map where physical geography matters less than digital infrastructure, and where a choke point is only a trap if you haven't built an exit. While the U.S. continues to fight a ghost in the Gulf, China has already moved into the house next door. They have proven that they can feed their industry, fuel their military, and fund their future without ever needing to ask the U.S. Navy for permission. The United States now faces a choice that will define the next 50 years. We can continue to pour billions into a security subsidy for our greatest rival, guarding a waterway that is becoming a strategic dead end. Or we can realize that the game has changed. The Hormuz trap was never about a single battle or a single blockade. It was a decade-long engineering project designed to make the U.S. Navy's primary leverage irrelevant. If the U.S. stays, it bleeds money. If it leaves, it cedes the world's energy hub to the Petro-Yuan. There are no easy exits left on this board, and as the 2026 crisis deepens, the time for a soft landing has officially run out. The map of the world is being redrawn in real time, and if you're only watching the mainstream news, you're missing the most important moves. We are tracking the shift from the Pacific Front to the digital gold markets every single week. If you want to understand the strategy behind the headlines and protect your own financial future in this changing world, make sure to join this community. Subscribe now and hit the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the South China Sea escalation. The trap is set and the world is moving. Don't get left behind. This is Past Feenix. Thank you for watching.